Hello and welcome to another segment of Supreme Feminine Essence, the gifts you are born with. I'm Saenz, and with me this segment is Simone Wright. She has this amazing new book out called First Intelligence, and I'm really excited to be talking with Simone about intuition because intuition is definitely a gift that's a feminine grace. And to embrace it and utilize it is fantastic. I know I use my intuition all the time, and I love to see men using theirs. It's beautiful. So welcome to the show, Simone.
Thank you, Mia. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So share with us your journey up to this point on how you discovered your feminine graces with intuition and everything else, and also talk about your book briefly. We're going to talk about it throughout the interview as well.
Well, the journey's never really over, is it?
No.
We never land at the place where we go, la, I've got it all figured out. So even for me, it continues to be an ongoing process of developing this skill set and fine-tuning it. But I've been powerfully intuitive since I was a little kid. And powerful for me means just having an expanded ability that maybe some folks don't. Hypersensitive. And it's really served me a lot in my career as an artist. I'm also a writer, but one of my superpowers as a grace, what you call it, is my ability to paint. And having a lifetime of that since I was little, I can't remember a time in my life when I wasn't an artist and when I wasn't crazy intuitive and creative and could see things that other people couldn't see and had visionary ideas. But it serves me as an artist because it allows me to see deeply. And I specialize in wildlife and African and endangered animals and things like that. And so when I'm painting, all of me goes into that work, not just my eyes and not just my hands. And so the intuition serves me because I feel like I connect with the soul of that animal. Mm-hmm. And, my collectors definitely look at the work and they go, I don't know how you did that, but you've connected to something here. So the intuition serves the artwork serves the intuition, and they've both sort of combined to lead ultimately to my teaching of the intuitive skill set to people all over the world, which is, again, you never know where you're going to land, really, but
that's right.
That's where I've ended up, at least for today.
I love that. I didn't realize you were also an artist. I love that because I used to be an art broker in the 80s, yeah. And there are so many pieces that can move you so deeply, but also you have to be a deep person who's consciously aware or working on that that path to understand the depth within the eyes, the expression on the face, whether it's an animal or a human. It can be so gloriously beautiful. I love that you've put that connection together in telling us because it's very rich, very, very rich. And I love to meet like-minded people, so that's so totally awesome. So totally awesome.
When I decided to write the book, I looked at intuition deeply. I looked at it like pursuing a painting. And it's like, all right, what's going on here so that I can present it in such a way that people can look at it without it being super cerebral, without it being, you go to some art galleries and you're like, what does the artist mean? And what is he trying to say? It's like, oh, phooey. It's a flower. So I wanted it to be really grounded and something that everybody could use and understand clearly. And that's what's brought me the greatest joy, is being able to connect to this gift, this grace, and have all the mystery and the voodoo and the superstition knocked off of it, and say, oh, this is something I'm born with. This is as natural as digesting my food.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a big deal, and it's there to serve us all the time. When we're not afraid of it, it can flourish.
Right. And if somebody asks you again about your flower, then you tell them that it's deeply mourning the early death of its child. Of its offspring. I mean, really?
Clearly you're not involved enough.
Exactly. That's so funny. I love that you talk about that intuition as a gift. Like these gifts that we're born with. And this is exactly why I chose this topic, Supreme Feminine Essence, the gifts you were born with, because there are so many beautiful gifts that we all have, but that people are not allowing themselves to experience. And throughout this telesummit, with different interviews, we'll find out different gifts. But we're all supposed to be intuitive. We're supposed to be, express our mysticism. We're supposed to even be telepathic, and at some point we will be. And it's really amazing when we can connect with our energy with another person and actually communicate as opposed to voice speaking. So
Right.
there are
Right.
so many beautiful divine gifts that are already there for us, just people have not grabbed at them, and they don't understand.
Well, and it's trained out of us at a very young age. You know, as children, we pop into this world wildly intuitive. Our brains aren't developed enough to communicate through language, so we already have a very powerful communication of feeling and vibration. And because we don't have this rational mind, as children, we're going through the world using our senses and through the dynamic of feeling in ourselves. And it's trained out of us by people who are well-meaning, don't misunderstand, but our teachers, our parents, they coach it out of us in order for us to fit into the environment.
Right.
And so as we start to learn it again, it's really a matter of just remembering how we were as children and being able to let go of the minutia of this language and be able to remember the minutia of the greater feeling language. And it just takes practice.
Exactly, and removing your fear, because a lot of people, as you know, a lot of people on this planet are under a type of a veil that they don't even want to understand what's truly going on for them, and they would rather just live their humdrum everyday life, going to work, coming home, watching TV, instead of enjoying what's a part of them, to remember that their soul knows all, and we just need to open up and embrace that.
Absolutely. And I even say that in the book, that living an intuitive life is no place for sissies. Because you have to develop this courage and this willingness to sort of step forward without there being any proof or validation or logical explanation of why you're taking those steps. And you need to be willing as well to fall flat on your face every once in a while, because in my vision, you learn just as much by recognizing what doesn't work as you do by recognizing what does.
Very nice. You talk about this is a very important time for us to understand our intuitive gifts. Expand on that for me, please.
Well, gee, I mean, just based on what we're doing today, you know, there's more and more media out there. There's more and more information out there. There's more guidance. There's more external stimulation, external opinion, and, you know, most of it is well-meaning, some of it's not. And, you know, the statistic is, this is a UCLA study, I'm not making this up, is that on a daily basis we receive or interpret 174 newspapers worth of data per day. And what that does to our body is, because we don't know which avenue to turn, which advice to follow, it puts us into fight or flight, and it shuts our body down. It causes us to feel depressed. It causes us to feel anxious. It causes weight gain. It causes all sorts of distortions in the body, simply because we don't know where to go. So being able to use our intuition is more important now than ever before, because this onslaught, I call this a tsunami of data, is drowning us. And so we fall into analysis paralysis, or we turn to other people for guidance. I call it prediction addiction. We go to our psychics or our therapists and we ask people, tell me what to do. And intuition is the lifeboat in that tsunami.
Right.
And it helps us learn what is appropriate for me in this moment. What is the wisest choice for me in this moment? How can I find joy and certainty when everybody else is telling me everybody's got an opinion? What's right for me? Learning to recognize that higher wisdom will save your butt every single time.
Yes.
And people around you won't have a clue what you're doing, and they'll think you've lost your marbles. But, you know, that's again part of the courage required to do it. But that's why it's important.
Yeah. And it is very important to be extremely selective in what we allow into our consciousness, or what we allow ourselves to see, and to choose what type of newspapers we want to look at, what we want to view in our news feeds on our social media, what type of, if you watch TV, what type of TV programs you're going to watch, or whether you're going to change that to a documentary instead, where you can gather information to help yourself grow. It is vitally important to be selective. have always been selective on that. I think that that's just because of my upbringing as a metaphysician my whole life, and so it really is quite important to do that. And I'm so grateful years ago I made that choice, you know, and repeatedly. Again, I made it 6 years ago when I changed my life and had another awakening. You know, I mean, we're never settled. We're always moving forward,
Yeah.
and you know.
Yeah,
So,
because when you're settled, you're dead. Like
Yeah.
you're always evolving, and it is a testament to the hunger people have right now, and intuition. More and more people are talking about it. You know, Richard Branson speaks of it all the time. Warren Buffett speaks of it all the time. Oprah Winfrey obviously speaks of it all the time. Steve Jobs spoke of it all the time, and it's becoming more and more accepted in the non-alternative. I don't know what the word for that is. The regular people.
mainstream society.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's that word? It's becoming more accepted. And so now people are wondering, okay, it's okay to talk about it, but now how do I use it so that
Right.
I'm not fumbling along like the rest of the lemmings who are following everybody else. So
Right.
it couldn't be a more exciting time for what we're talking about.
And also, when you feel these, when your intuition is verified, I've always verified my intuition when I was little. You know, before I began to really trust it. People used to say, and my ex-husband used to say, "You're a witch,"
Thank you.
and I'd be like, "Oh my goodness!" Just because I know things, you know, it's really a very beautiful experience and exciting. I mean, what's more exciting than knowing who's calling you on the phone because you're energetically connected with people in the world, or just with yourself, and that you can feel the vibration. I remember that as a little girl. You know, oh, Grandma's on the phone. Well, we haven't picked it up yet. Oh, hi, Grandma. You know.
That same level of connection applies to your business. It applies to your money. It applies to the relationships you have with your children. It applies to your body. It's so far-reaching that I get goosepimples just talking about the power of it, because it's not. People think it's sort of limited to, you know, communicating, knowing who's on the phone, but
It's more than that. It's a magic of life. It's actually manifesting. It's supply. It's understanding our true connection to the divine. Yeah. When I was saying that about the phone, that was, you know, a 7-8-year-old, you know, and I'm certainly not a 7 and 8-year-old now, right?
Oh, you're deeply trained in what the metaphysics of it are, but for some people who are just sort of stepping into this, they think, oh, well, it's supernatural or it's paranormal, and how am I going to, you know, and so I won't go near it. But the fun part for me is having businessmen, or I teach law enforcement, and seeing these people who, I challenge any of your viewers out there to go sit in a room with 22 police detectives and start talking about intuition, and not be afraid of them sitting there looking at you like this. And, you know, like, what's this little chippy going to prove to us?
Yeah.
And then being able to say, how many of you in this room have been on a case and walked down a hallway and known that there was a perpetrator behind the wall? Or how many of you have known, when talking to a victim or a suspect, that there's more to the story, not just through paranoia, but a deeper knowing? And every hand in the room went up. And so when I had them look around the room and see how many hands were up, I said, okay, what I'm teaching you is not magic. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
And then the defenses came down. Because they went, oh, okay.
Yeah, because they saw the light. They saw what you're talking about. Let's talk a little bit more about the misconceptions of intuition.
Well, the number one is sort of what we were just talking about, is that it's paranormal, and it's superstitious, and it's voodoo woo, and it's not. It's inherent in who we are as a being from almost the moment we're conceived. Like, even before we're born,
It's part of our soul, right?
Yeah. But in order for us to interpret anything spiritual, we need to do it through our biological being, right? You can't experience anything spiritual without the suit.
Right.
And so your suit is starting to interpret the environment from the moment those two zygotes connect. It's inherent in all of us. So that's the number one misconception, is that it's supernatural. Scratch that off the list. Not normal. It's normal. It's as normal as digestion. That's what I would say. Can you digest a sandwich? You're intuitive.
Yeah.
What? How does that go together? And then the second most common misconception is that it's based in emotion. You know, people, especially in the masculine world, and I appreciated you saying I'm glad that more men are adopting their intuitive side. And the bad rap is that it's based in feminine emotion, and oh, it's women's intuition, she's just being emotional, and it's not. When you get an intuitive hit or intuitive guidance, it comes to you in a neutral, non-emotional fashion. Where we get emotional is when we react to the information held in the intuitive hit. And so that's why people think it can't be trusted, because our emotions, if we're not aware, can't be trusted. And so I always say, how many people have had traffic intuition? When you're in your car, you hear turn left, and you ignore it, and you keep going straight, and there's a cop right there. And you go, oh, shootski, I heard turn left, but I got a $200 ticket, dang it. And so when you heard that hit, what did it sound like? Did it sound like, turn left? No. Did it sound like, turn left? No. It sounded like, turn left. And so learning to recognize how that feels and learning to pay attention and trust it sort of becomes, really, if you only learn that level of the communication, you're golden.
That's awesome. That's really important to bring up, because when we do listen, like you were saying, we can avoid so much. Tickets, accidents, being in the wrong spot at the wrong time, or being in the right spot at the wrong time, you know?
Right.
It's amazing. And it's
really... it doesn't have to be big earth-moving things. It can be simple, everyday stuff. So it's awesome.
Are there particular steps in which to access this gift?
Sure, and they're important. And everybody has their own style, but what I sort of discerned basically the approach I took to intuition was reverse engineering it. I would go in on cases for law enforcement or working with clients that were successful, and I would say, okay, what am I doing in these moments? And then I reverse engineered the process. And I came up with a really simple platform. And it's a triangle, so there's 3 sides, and the bottom is peace, one side is precision, and the third side is perception. And peace is always, they all serve equal power, but peace has to be at the foundation of the process, because if you're coming to a conversation with your intuition and you're coming from a place of stress, worry, fear, panic, anxiety, any of that stuff that causes incoherence in your body, the chances of you connecting with that level of intelligence are slim to none. So you have to be able to develop a foundation of peace, and whether that's through meditation or walking your dog, putting your technology away, don't have your cell phone, and I only just got a cell phone, and I can see how addictive they are. Oh my gosh. Putting your technology away, going into the garden and getting your hands dirty, anything that can just calm your sense of being so that your mind isn't going 100 miles an hour. A lot of the men that I train, it's so funny, will say they get their best intuitive hits while they're shaving or they're in the shower. Because this is something that they just do, they're not thinking about it, their mind is still, and boom, 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 boom. I said, okay. So that's how you can access it. And then the second step is precision. And we need to be precise about our energy, the energy with which we're engaging in the intuitive conversation. Are we open? Are we relaxed? Is there a sense of appreciation, gratitude, joy? You don't have to be swinging off the chandeliers happy. In fact, it's actually better that you're just more calm and grounded in maybe gratitude or appreciation. You need to be precise with that. You also need to be precise with the language you use. If you engage in an intuitive conversation with an empowered question, you'll get an empowered direction. If you go in there with a wimpy, disempowered question, the guidance that you get's not going to serve you. So precise with energy, precise with how you converse with it. And then the third one is perception. When you start to engage in this conversation, your perceptions expand. You start to notice things that have always been there in your environment, but you weren't aware of because your brain, your mind, your body was focused energetically in a different direction. And so that's the part where you start to see those signs. You start to notice billboards on the street. You hear conversations from clear across the room that don't involve you, but you catch 2 words and you're like, that's the answer I needed. And so this is where you start to notice what you notice.
Right.
And then you put all those 3 things together, and then you have to take action. Because there's no point in talking to your intuition and asking for directions if you're going to sit like a loaf on the sofa and do nothing, you know? So,
Exactly.
but the action, I always say, should be inspired. It shouldn't be a white knuckle roller coaster ride. I encourage people to build up that heart momentum and say, oh, I've never done it before, but ooh, this sounds like fun. I'm going to go for it. And then just go for it and see what happens. So that's the simplification of the process.
That's awesome. All right, share with us also what's the difference between intuition and how to tell fear and wishful thinking or even past conditionings. You know, separate ourselves from our normal behavior into intuition.
Yeah, well, again, that's part of the precision aspect of the triad. You know, fear, and I invite everybody out there, think about the times when you felt fear in your body or felt anxiety or paranoia. It feels a certain way in your body. For most people, fear feels awful. You know, speaking for myself, it feels congested, it feels painful, it hurts my head, it hurts my belly, it hurts my heart, I can't see, I feel like I can't breathe, it feels, you know, colors, there's sensations, I feel a bitter taste in my mouth. If you get really clear about how those things feel and go through your whole list, and everybody's got them, you know, paranoia, worry, even wishful thinking, even though that could be deemed as perhaps more leaning towards the polarity of good, light stuff, even wishful thinking, when you're really hoping and you really want it to happen, even that has a feeling to it. And so it's important as a part of the precision aspect to get really good at identifying, all right, in the past when I felt this, how did it feel? Oh, that's how it feels. Now, when you've recalled those times in the past where you've had a moment of an intuitive glimmer, we've all had them, even if it's traffic intuition, how did it feel? For most people, it's calm, open, solid, clean. For me, I smell eucalyptus. So when it's important to be able to discern those, recognize them. It's called an intuitive taste test. And that's how the practice happens. That's how it becomes more refined, is being able to see how it feels. Not what you think about it, but what's going on in your biology that can tell you. So you can use fear. People always say, well, I want to avoid the fear. I say, no. Go in, dive into it, feel it, and realize as well that when you feel those things, what it's telling you is that in that moment, you're having a thought or a belief about something that is not in alignment with what your intuitive wisdom knows to be true. And so you've got your own built-in BS detector, and it's based in how you feel. It couldn't be any simpler, really.
That's awesome. Can you share with us how to amplify this gift to bless and benefit our life further?
Oh, boy. Well, what tends to happen when you start using your intuitive gifts is things that you had not ever planned for in your sort of limited linear way of thinking. You know, we have these dreams for our lives about how we think it should look. And when you start to use your intuition, because it's viewing it from the higher perspective, it starts to bring in these things that we could have never considered for ourselves. And what that requires from us is for us to grow and become bigger, broader versions of who we are. It invites us to be who we're meant to be. It invites us to step out of the sort of the limited small box that we've placed ourselves in for so long. And once that starts to happen, that starts to reflect in every aspect of our life. It serves our relationships, it serves our business, it serves our bank account, it serves how we serve the community. And I call it's like a multifaceted diamond. Intuition is like a diamond. And we as these raw stones that are pulled out of the earth, the potential for our brilliance is always there. But when you start to develop your intuition, you've got to be like a diamond cutter. And you've got to unceremoniously and without being tender about it, you've got to whack off the parts of you that keep that light from shining. And intuition, I don't want to use the word force because intuition doesn't force you, but intuition requires that you do that so that you knock off all of those parts of you that aren't who you are, that you've been faking this whole time and just pretending to be small or pretending to be afraid. And you whack those things off and you start to shine, and the light that already exists around you is allowed to reveal itself in a really brilliant way. So for me, I can never isolate intuition in one particular thing because it affects our entire being. And once you grab onto it and you hang on for the ride, everything unfolds in ways that you could have really never imagined.
That's really a nice way to describe it. It really is. I like that. Can you share with us your free gift?
Yes. As we spoke about, the foundation of intuition is peace, is coherence. And the best way, at least from my experience, is to go out into nature. Because there's not a whole lot of mind chatter out there in nature. It's the universal mind that you're out there connecting with. And that's where I get all of my good stuff.
Me too.
Just give me a tree.
Yeah.
So I've created this meditation for you, and it's called the Coherent Mind of Nature meditation, and it's a guided meditation that walks you through a forest, and you start to experience all of the things that are happening in this wonderful old growth forest. And what I also want to let people know is that when you're doing a guided meditation, the reason that we have you as metaphysicians, the reason we have you do that is because it's doing stuff to your brain. We're not just taking you on a happy, pretty adventure. It's shifting your brain into ways that allow you to access that greater field. And I think it's important to know, because people will do these guided meditations and be like, what? Why is she having me do this? And there is a science behind it. So that's what this free gift is. It allows you to open your heart, calm your mind, and actually integrate your entire intuition system so that when you step out of it, you have an ability to expand your perceptions and gain greater insight to whatever it is that you're working on. So.
I love that. Thank you. I have a new album coming out. I just wanted to share with you a meditation album, because I have my clients do meditation. It's guided meditation. It's highly productive in realigning our consciousness and our awareness and our everything that is truly about us on the spirit level. Mm-hmm. It is beautiful. I love that you said that. No one else, and everyone watching this, and if your other hosts who have been on my shows and all that, I love you, but I've not heard anybody describe it that way, and that's exactly the way that I feel. So thank you. I love that. That's totally awesome.
You're welcome.
Well, we're almost out of time. Is there a last thought that you'd love to leave us with, or like to leave us with?
Well, what brings me the greatest joy is when I'm working with people and I see the light go on. It's not even a light bulb. It's the light that starts to come out of their eyes when they realize they've had this gift their whole life. It's always been there, and it's always been trying to go, hello, hello, hello.
I'm home. Where are you?
Destiny is calling. Hello. And we've just not listened. And so in those moments, you have it. It's really so simple. It's not something that some people are gifted with and others aren't. It's not something that you need to suddenly go to an ashram or become a vegetarian to achieve. Your intuition is ready, willing, and able to serve you right now in this moment as to who you are. And it waits patiently to take you on this grand adventure. And boy, oh boy, when you open your heart and mind to it, brace yourself is all I can say, because your life will never be the same again. But you've already got it. You've always had it. You just need to remember.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I see your new book, First Intelligence, behind you. Yeah. And is First Intelligence, what are the primary information? I know it's what we've talked about, but share with us briefly what First Intelligence is so that people can look it up on your website and also on Amazon.com and choose to bring that into their home.
Bring it into your home.
Yeah.
Well, it breaks down the entire biological mind, body, spirit combination of what intuition is, how it works in our biology, the aspects of mind that are used, because we're using all three levels of mind, superconscious, conscious, and subconscious. We're using our gut, our heart, and our head, and every single cell in our body. Our skin is an interface between the environment. It's actually a part of our brain. We're covered with brain. It goes through all of the functions of the intuitive process, and then it breaks it down into the 7 steps to access intuitive wisdom and walks you through it step by step so that you can engage and have a conversation, not so that you're going through life with your hands off the wheel, but you can put your hands on the wheel, choose a destination like you're plugging it into your GPS, and you can get there. And I think I do it very simply, without a lot of fluff, It's really easy to understand, and that was important for me. And makes it easy to apply to any aspect of your life. And it's not a big book, and it was great fun to write, and it's made me a better teacher for sure. So
When your agent sent me, I work with everybody. I work with agents for my radio show, and also for my summits too. But when your agent had sent me a list of people, yours was the first one that went boing, and I'm like, I have to have her, and so I invited you out of all her people to be on this summit. It's like,
I'm so glad.
So it's very much a powerful book, not just the content inside, but even the way that you have it presented. I'm not talking about leaning on your bookshelf, but your cover on your book is very, very powerful. I know that it moved me, and there are not a lot of spiritual things that move me because I've seen a lot, So, I mean, yes, I love it, and I appreciate everybody's work, but it totally moved me. So I'm so grateful that you did this, and honored that you were on. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, great pleasure, great pleasure. However I can serve you, let me know.
Thank you so much, honey.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in another segment. Bye.